In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the Fantasy Grounds Classic 5th Edition rule set, and we're going to be looking into how you can add your own custom backgrounds into Fantasy Grounds so that they can be used by you and your players. So when we are creating backgrounds similar to other record types, we start off here with the backgrounds banner, and we'll open that up. Now, creating a new background, we can see the basic format here is relatively simple. We have the name of the background, we have a place where we can put some descriptive text, and this is all a part of the main tab. Now we do have a second tab here, the other tab. Now in Fantasy Grounds, this other tab for backgrounds, classes, races, and such, this other tab is where all the magic happens. That's where all of the automation will come from. So everything on the main tab is there just for reading only. It doesn't process anything. It doesn't automate anything. It's there just for the player to be able to click and read. The other tab is where we'll put all the information that will affect the automation capabilities. So let's start off. We're going to go ahead and recreate a background that comes from the Sword Coast Adventurers Guide. We're going to be taking a look at the Far Traveler background. So we'll start off typing in its name. And this section here, we're going to do second. The main tab we're going to do after we've done all of the automation parts. So we're going to actually switch over to the other tab first. Now, each background comes with a series of information. Generally, we have a set of skills that you gain when you take that background. We have one or more languages of that you learn. We have any tools that you gain proficiency in, any equipment that you might get, and then one or more features that accompany this background. So with skills, the standard format for all of the skill entries, pretty much all of the backgrounds will grant 2 skills. So we'll get proficiency in those 2 skills. So we'll pick 2 skills. We'll say stealth, and Far Traveler is insight and perception. So those are the 2 skills that we're going to gain proficiency in. Now, one of the Wizards of the Coast products introduced some new backgrounds that, rather than having specified skills, allows you a choice. So Fantasy Grounds has incorporated that as well. So here in the skills field, you do have the option of using the phrase choose and then a number, and number is spelled out, ONETWO 1 2 3 and so forth. It's not the digits. So you choose and then a number from among, and then you list a series of spells. So the number can be anywhere from 1 to 9. It's important though that if you're going to use this one, that you do not have a number that is bigger than the total number of skills listed. So if you say choose 5 from, and then you only give 4 options, it will break. What will happen is that Fantasy Grounds will get stuck trying to select it, and you won't be able to close the window or do anything with it, and it'll never actually commit. So this allows you to set a list of skills separated by a comma, and you just go ahead and list out all of the skills that they're able to choose from. Next up, we have, you can do the phrase, put the name of a skill. This is one that's guaranteed. So for example, insight, plus your choice of 1 from among, and then list another list of them. So it'll guarantee you the first one, and then you get to pick 1 from a secondary list. Now notice here that you do not have the option to change the number of skills selected. You can only pick 1. That's hard-coded. And the last one is probably the oddest phrasing. This comes from the faction agent, where it says you pick 1 skill that you predefined, and then this phrase, and 1 intelligence wisdom, or charisma skill of your choice as appropriate to your faction. The wording has to be exactly this, otherwise it will not understand it, it won't parse it correctly. But if you want to use that, those are the three alternative phrasings that Fantasy Grounds understands for these skills. But most backgrounds you'll find, if you look at all of the Player's Handbook backgrounds, and most backgrounds introduced in every other module or source book, just follows the pattern of listing two specific skills. So in our Far Traveler, we have our two skills, Insight and Perception. For languages, whatever we put here is going to be added to the character sheet as a language. So you can either spell out a language, or you can have a phrase such as any one of your choice. In this case, the Far Traveler, I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste over any one of your choice. Same thing with tools. This is a list of tools that you gain proficiency in, but you don't necessarily, it doesn't automate anything other than copying that information over. So in this case, any one musical instrument or gaming set of your choice, likely something native to your homeland. And this is going to get, of course, added to your character sheet as a tool proficiency. And then you'll have to manually go ahead and select what this is going to be referring to. Last up is this equipment field. Now, this does not automate giving you any items or equipment. This is just a listing of the equipment that you are entitled to based on that background. So I'll go ahead and copy and paste. And this is just, again, a listing of the information. It does not actually give you those items in your inventory. Now, the rest of this is features, and every background is generally going to have one or more features added. So to add a feature, there's a little bit of a counterintuitive process to it. We're going to go ahead and edit the list, add an entry, and then stop editing the list. Now you notice it's created this new link, and I've left it all blank. Then we can open it, and the reason why we do this is that this link will not appear until we close the edit list button. As long as that's open, I won't be able to go in and modify it. So once we've exited editing mode, we go ahead and click on the link, and now we can define the feature. So in this case, the feature available for a Far Traveler is All Eyes on You, and it has some flavor information. Now notice this feature doesn't really provide any automation, or there's no scores or abilities affected by any of it. This is just a background feature with some descriptive elements useful for role playing. And you can have one or more features, again, added the same way. You can go ahead and click on it again, and then add a secondary one if you would like. We're not going to do that here. All right, so for the other tab, for this particular background, we're done. That doesn't mean we're done with the entire process of making the background. So now let's jump back to the main tab. Now, as I said, the main tab is purely for descriptive elements. So what we're going to do here is we're going to copy and paste some of the descriptive elements here and make them available for our players to quickly access. So we can copy and paste the same information that we just created. We can format it nicely, put bold, remove these extra lines that may have been added. And now we can see here we've got our feature, All Eyes on You. Now in this case, we have all of this information already defined in the actual feature. So what we can do here is actually link to that feature that we created. Now to do this, we'll switch back to the other tab, go ahead and open this link so the window's open. Come back to the main and drag and drop it. Now this allows me to have that there so that it's easily available I can go ahead and, as a player, I can click on it and read through it without cluttering it up. And next up, we have some additional information. So, for example, why are you here? This may have some descriptive stuff for that particular background. Now, in this case, there is a table. This is it says roll on the following table to determine why you're here. So let's go ahead and create that table. We have no table here. I am using an extension. I'm going to be using Celestian's table importer just to make this process quick. So I'm going to import the table here. It's created it for me. And I can just drag and drop the table there. So then when my players want to select this background, they can just click on that and roll the output and see what it is. Similarly, pretty much every class will come with some suggested characteristics. For example, there's a personality trait, an ideal, a bond, and a flaw. And nearly all of these will have some kind of a table that you can import and roll for these various things. So let's do that again. So let's take a look at the personality trait. Again, I'm going to be importing it. So I forgot to do that. Never mind. Let me try that one more time. I left out a line. All right, so there we go. So we've gone ahead and imported our personality trait table, and I can just drag and drop the link to create it. Same thing with our ideal table. And I'm just copying and pasting in this case our bond table. And lastly, our flaw table. And there we go. We have a complete background now created here for Fantasy Grounds. Again, everything on this main tab is not going to be doing any automation. This is just part of, or to make it easily accessible to the players. If you want to link other things, pictures, or anything else, you certainly can. When we are adding this to a character, we'll go ahead and add this. Let's create a completely blank new character. It has no anything. And if we go ahead and add the Far Traveler as a background, you can see here all of these features have been added. And if we switch over to the Abilities tab, we can see the things that are created. This feature that was created on the other tab, that's now been added here under Features. The tool proficiencies that we defined here on the other tab gets placed in here. The language proficiencies, again, gets placed in here. But as I mentioned before, the equipment does not translate anywhere. It's not automatically generated for you. So, and then lastly, the skills, you can see insight and perception have been marked as proficient. So that is everything that you need to do to create your own backgrounds. You can make them as complete as you'd like. If you have the source material, you can import the tables as I did using Celestian's table importer extension. It's very useful when you are importing lots of different tables for stuff like that. Thank you.